Doesn't matter where you live in the world, probably what matters the most to you is your family, yourself. Are you healthy enough? Are you doing the right things for you to make a difference? Probably. The answer maybe. I'm not really sure. Today on our program, hopefully we'll give you some insight into that, because statistically, we're all not doing too well. Our special guest on the program is a man who I promise you will give you insights into that. He is the clinical professor of surgery at the University of Colorado. More than that, though, he's one of the leading therapist researchers for micronutrients in the country, maybe even in the world. Our very special guest is Dr. Gerald Haase. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Stephen, very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm going to lead off with a question I don't know if you have the answer to. But statistically, people could look at where the world's going and the lifespan and say, we're really doing okay. Since the 50s, our lifespan has increased dramatically, higher than it has ever been before. And not only in the U.S., but around the world. The highest life expectancy right now is Japan, by the way. But at the same time, we're not doing too well medically. I wrote down a statistic. According to the CDC, about half the adult population right now has chronic disease. 1 out of every 4 adults has 2 or more chronic diseases. 7 out of 10 deaths right now caused by chronic disease. We might be living longer, but maybe not healthier.
Well, you're quite correct. I think those statistics are somewhat shocking, because you would think that as society has advanced, and with advancing age, we must be doing things better. The facts are that we are living longer, and whether that's genetics or whether that's because we do have different food sources, and we do perhaps have been able to cure some diseases, the fact is that the environment is hostile. The air pollution is hostile. The stress levels are high. The skepticism in the world is high. The barbarism and terrorism in the world is high. So people are worried. People have habits that are not so good. Our smoking, we think it's going down globally. In fact, there are some parts of the U.S. where it is going down, but globally, not so much. In food, you only have to go to a public high school and look at the youngsters. And as a dad, this hurts me a lot, because being healthy and perhaps eating the right food, you would think would be a primary and important issue. And yet, look at our children. They're as smart as any generation we've ever produced, but the eating habits and what they're exposed to, and the fact that they are living on their computers and living on their smartphones and not exercising, it's a shame.
But life is easier that way. I mean, let's be honest. Life is easier that way. It's easier to drive up to your favorite hamburger joint and grab a hamburger and fries. It's easier to maybe go down the street and grab your favorite pizza. It's easier than it is to cook right and do right. I was fascinated not too long ago. We had a fast food hamburger place open up in Las Vegas. The lines were 3, 4, 5 hours long. It is easier for people. Is it the right thing? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't always eat the best, but I've become cognizant to the fact of what I put in my body impacts what my body does.
Right. Well, I think you've hit upon really an important nerve, Steve. And here's, I think, one of the key things. It is easier because we live in a fast society. We have families now where both parents work long hours, instead of when I grew up, and I'm sure when you grew up, it was a very different situation. One spouse was working, the other spouse was taking care of the home, cooking the meals, making things very, very healthy, at least as what they knew. But now what's happened is it is about fast food. If you have 3 hours for a hamburger stand, open a donut shop and see how long the line is. It'll be as long. The problem is that most chronic diseases are based on a oxidative damage that occurs in the GI tract. So in fact, you are what you eat. Your GI tract controls most of the mutagens and carcinogens in the body. And unless you alter that environment, and there are some specific strategies to do that, unless you alter that environment, you're going to get what you deserve.
Okay. Ooh, that's a tough word, Doctor. You get what you deserve. That's a little bit tough. Again, we have a live studio audience, so they reacted to that immediately. Or reacted to me, I'm not really sure. Here's a question for you, though. You know, you mentioned when you and I were young. When you and I were young, I know that we sat down at the dinner table and we talked about what was going on in the world. We shared and did homework. It was different for people to be able to make a meal together and sit together. Today, because of the stress of our lifestyle, people are having 2, sometimes 3 jobs. Families are not able to sit down. I've got a school that I'm telling you, the amount of children whose parents are there so they can do their homework is infinitesimal. So the pressures of society impact all of that. How do you balance it all out? I mean, you're telling me that what we put in harms who we are, but that's easier said than done.
Yes, and I think it does take a paradigm shift. But to get the paradigm shift, you have to understand the underlying mechanisms and reasons why some of these adverse things are occurring. We didn't just suddenly wake up today and decide that 75 million people in the United States are going to be diabetics or pre-diabetics. We didn't suddenly decide that 100 million people will have some degree of heart disease or cardiac dysfunction. You know, we didn't decide that everybody over the age of 50 has a problem with arthritis or some other diseases of aging. Those evolve because of the way we have not taken care of ourselves. And that is because the knowledge is not really there. We get 100 stories on the internet. We get so many experts on everything, including TV, which I know we're on, but we get so many experts telling us what's good, what's bad. And if you really want to go crazy, turn your TV on at 12:30 or 1 in the morning and watch the litany of infomercials. You know, they're going to change your life. Unfortunately, 90% is garbage.
You don't even have to do that. I was watching the Super Bowl. And I'll be honest, I love the Super Bowl. I was watching the Super Bowl. And after the Super Bowl, after the game, there was an advertisement on for a pharmaceutical company. And they were pushing their pharmaceutical product. And what struck me more than anything was not what the product was going to do for people. It was what it could do to people. The warnings that come with all of it. Everything from stopping breathing, you name it. Have we become an over-medicated society without balancing it all off?
Well, when the average person at age 55 or older is taking between 3 and 5 prescription medications, that is actually ordered by a doctor, and you add to that when they go to the shelf at the pharmaceutical or supplement aisle or functional food aisle of a store, and they pick up 5 more things. That is what I think is the problem. It's not knowledgeable, it's uncontrolled, and there is an angst because everyone realizes that they're not aging as well as they think they should.
I don't want to point this out to you. You're a doctor. You prescribe those things. Maybe you didn't notice, but you do have a better way. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but you do have a better way. You have nobody has an elixir. Nobody has the perfect answer. But there are things that we can do, the audience can do, to make a difference for themselves. Correct?
Correct. Well, you know, today I had the opportunity through you to meet some very sophisticated doctors at the Cleveland Clinic here in Las Vegas. And what was very clear as we were talking, you could see they brightened when they realized that there were some direct mechanisms of action in the body that you can affect, you can positively affect. you just have to have the knowledge to do that. And I didn't start that way. You're quite correct. Guilty as charged. I'm a doctor and I'm a clinician.
My best friend's a doctor, so
Right,
I want to make that clear.
Well, you know, I think when you take care of people as opposed to taking care of theory, there are doctors who can lecture in the classroom, and then there are doctors who can take care of people. And I think
he can do if he can't teach. I'm gonna stop on that for 1 second. When we come back in the program, we're gonna talk more about this entire idea, and I'll even unveil something for all of you. It is interesting what you can do for yourselves. We'll be right back. As you heard, it's been said, you are what you eat. Well, could it also be said that you could be harmed by what you don't do? We'll find out. Our very special guest once again, Dr. Gerald Haase. Doctor, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so I'm going to unveil some stuff here. Maybe things that my audience has never known. I've had not one, not two, but 3 heart attacks in my life. I am well over the age of 60 now. And I found myself in a situation that I had listened to every witch doctor that came by, looking for that altogether cure. Took drinks, I took pills, I took everything in the world. I found out that what was happening to me is I was still aging rapidly, more internally than maybe externally. I had a chance to find out about something. And the reason why you're here is I want to share with the audience what I found out. And that not everything that is prescription, not everything that is given to you is the panacea, is the answer to all. Sometimes doing the right things for ourselves can be even more important. I found this thing called micronutrients. So I'm going to ask you you explained earlier about the things that we do bad. What about the things that we could do good?
Well, the concept of micronutrients, of course, is not new. And just to be clear, macronutrients are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Micronutrients are the much smaller molecules and much smaller substances like electrolytes, like minerals, like antioxidants, that in fact are the building blocks of the macronutrients, but if they're modulated the right way, they can have enormous impact on health. The reason this is an important discussion is that there were 3 major articles in the last decade in very prestigious journals, the Journal of the American Medical Association, the Annals of Internal Medicine. And these articles showed that virtually all the human chronic diseases are related to 3 factors. Let me say that again. Virtually all of the human chronic diseases that plague all of us, are related to 3 factors. 1 is oxidative damage, 2 is inflammation, and 3 is dysfunction of the immune system.
Okay, but we all have inflammation within us. Our bodies work on the inflammation and do the right things. When that inflammation is in balance, if I'm wrong, tell me, but when it's in balance, it's okay. It's when it goes out of balance that it messes everything up that we have, right?
That's correct. If you lived in a bubble, Steve, if you lived in a bubble, then a lot of what I'm about to say would not be relevant. But see, we don't. We have pollution in the air. We have exposure to UV. We have exposure to ionizing radiation. We have exposure to toxic chemicals. We unfortunately have exposure to terrorism. We have exposure to biologic agents. And we also have exposure to a panoply of pharmaceutical drugs that have some really unfortunate side effects, even if they work for the condition for which they're prescribed. So in that milieu, these 3 factors, if you could abrogate them, if you could lower their intensity, if you could enhance their perfection, if you would, then we perhaps can interfere with some of these processes that cause these serious illnesses.
Okay. So, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead.
Okay.
You are a researcher. You are an individual that works with micronutrient therapy. The military came to you. Our military came to you and said, listen, we're putting our soldiers in harm's way.
Yeah.
We know that they are being harmed, that they are coming back and being impacted.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to help them? And you said?
Let me think. What we said was, and you're correct, that's very accurate. We, in fact, were approached by the U.S. government after 9/11 because of the horrific events, and they said, can you put together for our U.S. operating forces something that would be protective? And they had read some of my partner's papers and mine, and they saw that there were strategies that could be used, but they were not very active in clinical medicine because they were sort of thrown over on the supplement side. So therefore, doctors didn't have a realistic view that it could really work. So what we developed over quite a long period of time, and with a lot of
almost 20 years.
Right, about 15 years, and many millions of dollars from the U.S. government and Congress. Thank you very much, senators and congressmen. But it was important. It was targeted to conditions that we are exposed to. What we found out as we did these studies, which was very exciting, was that there are many other clinical phenomenon that we affected, and we didn't know that would happen. But it did. People would come back to us and say, you know what, this has improved. I'm sleeping better than I've ever slept. My morning energy is good. Why do I not have the pain in my joints when I carry a 45-pound pack? Or as one of my doctor friends said to me, why don't I have the pain in my knees when I hit the golf club? So these things evolve. Clinical phenomenology evolves. So we started with scientific intent, but then we realized what we had.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. The first time I heard this, I said bull sweetness. Or something close to that. And I said, this is a dietary supplement. You cannot tell me in today's world that a dietary supplement's going to make a difference. And somebody said to me, okay, just try it for a few months. That's what they said to me. So I did. But I found out, and it's not that I'm endorsing what you're saying, it's that I worry about people and I want them to be better. I want them to have the things that they want to do in life. And at my age, doing the things that I'm doing now, I have to point to something. The only thing that I've changed is taking this military micronutrient formulation pill. 2 pills in the morning, 2 pills at night, a big, not $2 a day.
Right.
But what has happened to me, my blood levels have leveled off. My blood pressure has gone down. My sense, my feeling, who I am. I mean, I've got as much energy 4 times this room. And it's because of a dietary supplement, not a drug,
Right.
a dietary supplement. How do I not say bull sweetness all the time?
Well, you are correct in one thing, because probably 98% of what is on that shelf under where it says dietary supplement is a great example of bull sweetness. And the fact is, antioxidant science is antioxidant science, just like chemical science is chemical science, rocket science is rocket science, brain science is brain science. You can't get away from it. So if you start with the premise that there is a scientifically defined mechanism that causes a problem, and you can interrupt that mechanism, you would expect that there'd be a better outcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the single toughest question
Okay.
I'm going to ask you right now.
Okay.
If it works this well, if it does for me what I think it can do for other people, why the heck isn't it out there for the world to know? Well, that's the one thing that maybe make me go, wait a minute, full sweetness all around. But it's not. It has to be in a right way. People need to figure it out for themselves and do the right thing.
Right. Well, I think this is very important, and thank you for actually saying that statement, because it's a strong statement. You're quite correct. In a skeptical world, and in a world where information is either not available, grotesquely inaccurate, or frankly a lie, it's not surprising that this information is not known. But with the proper forms of certain micronutrients, with the proper combinations of certain micronutrients, and with the proper inclusion of the different parts of micronutrients, the way the body works, you have a very good chance to have a decrease in adverse outcome in a person.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
You haven't harmed anything
Exactly.
in the process.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because we have now done 20 studies. We've done 11 in animals, 9 in humans, and we have had a safety record that is pristine. We are the only product that is a multiple micronutrient combination that has gotten approval from the Institutional Review Board of the U.S. Department of Defense to give to U.S. operating forces.
Doctor, you have been insightful. You've been answered my questions. I know it's called military micronutrient formulation, and I'm going to ask the audience, go on the web, just look at it. I think what you're doing is amazing, and it can help people, and I thank you for being on our show today. Truly, thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Steve.
It's all about just that, opportunity. You know, you make your own call. You figure it out for yourself. I know what it's done for me. I know what I feel like today. Could you tell I'm just a little bit excited? Try it. Go. Try. What is it? What do you have to lose? But you have so much to gain.